And the third one is partial correlation analysis. And this analysis was performed in order to examine the unique relation between specific MPS scale and the student WPI and the MSLQ scales, with other dimension of perfectionism partial out. And actually, those data was also we can see from the table too, but I just draw another table. Yeah. For WPI, self-oriented person positively related to extrinsic motivation, compensation orientation, and outward orientation. And social prescriptive perfectionism is positively related to extrinsic motivation and outward motivation, but it is negatively related to all the extrinsic motivation and the subscale from the challenge orientation. And for MSLQ, that is a motivated strategy for learning questionnaire. For self-oriented perfectionism, it is positive related to extrinsic goal motivation, self-efficacy, intrinsic goal motivation, and test value. And for the strategy that they may use are metacognitive, organization, elaboration, rehearsal, critical thinking, effort management, and time and study environment they will use while they are learning. And it is very interesting that test anxiety, there's no significance in the test anxiety. And for social prescriptive perfectionism, the most related one is test anxiety. Yeah. And the negative related is self-efficacy. And for other oriented perfectionism, the positive related only for help seeking and the rehearsal. Yeah. And let's go to discussion part. And the findings of the present study support the theory that there are distinguished and identifiable positive and adaptive aspects of perfectionism, and also in addition to the negative and maladaptive aspects commonly assumed. Yeah. And so let's answer two questions here. Is self-oriented perfectionism adaptive? According to this statistic, yeah, the significant findings emerge in the zero-order correlation analysis. They found that self-oriented perfectionism scale was positive associative with many measures. And however, the effects were even more stronger, and the pattern of the relation more consistent with prediction when the influence of the other perfectionism components was partial out. That means they just focus on only, for example, self-orientation perfectionism. And then the other two, social prescriptive perfectionism and other oral oriented perfectionism were divided. Yeah. And the self-oriented perfectionism most related to extrinsic motivation, including compensation and outward orientation. And actually, it is the surprise one, at least for me. Yeah, because I think self-oriented perfection is more related to our intrinsic motivation. However, the result is extrinsic motivation. Yeah. And the results clearly demonstrate that self-oriented perfectionism not only demonstrates strong motivation to achieve self-imposed high standards for academic success, but they also demonstrate strongly motivation that they are usually associated with positive academic outcomes. And thus, self-oriented perfectionism can be adaptive. Yeah. And next one, social prescriptive social prescriptive perfectionism is maladaptive and consists with the hypothesis that social prescriptive perfectionism can create motive deficits in individuals. And during the questionnaire, they found out that higher score exhibits high extrinsic motivation and outer motivation, and lower intrinsic motivation and challenge orientation as assessed by the student WPI. Implication and research directions. As for implication, this study is to fostering the adaptive learning strategy for success in university students. And the findings of the negative effect of the perceived excessive pressure to be perfect suggest that the need for counseling of students who perceive such demands that is aimed at fostering a sense of self-efficacy, the use of adaptive learning strategy, and the effective resource management, and combating test anxiety. And for the future study, the researchers suggest that the future researchers should try to establish the link between perfectionism component and the academic outcomes. Although there are many research have already proved it, but they still suggest to establish the links, and also to establish the relation between high standards and motivation and the learning strategy in both self-oriented and social prescriptive perfectionism may be affected by difference in actual and the perceived ability to meet those standards. And finally, causality should not be inferred from correlation design in this study. Although we may think that self-oriented perfectionists may get higher score or interest motivation in that, but we cannot just say which one influence which one. And for the future prospective research, just to establish the direct relations. Yeah, that's all for my presentation.
Well, I think this is a very interesting topic, even though it's not actually within our field. But it's more like psychological research, but it's really interesting. How the professionism, right? Professionism